My name is Bob Nisbet. I'm the city manager for the city of Half Moon Bay. We are here today, as most of you know, to celebrate an incredible program that is launching today. It's an alternative response program to people who are having mental health crisis. And as you can see on the vehicle next to me is the CARES program. I've been working on this acronym now for a couple months, so I've got it down, but everyone has to get it down today. CARES, Crisis, Assistance, Response, Evaluation Services. All right, everyone. The CARES program. Crisis, Assistance, Response, Evaluation Services. All right. So a very happy day for us and so many partners that have been a part of this. We have a few speakers. After the speakers, we're going to do a ribbon cutting. We also have some coffee and pastries. And as I said, after the ribbon cutting, we are officially launching this program, and it actually starts today. So our first speaker, in her inaugural address, we rotate mayors at the city of Half Moon Bay every year. So in December, we had our rotation, and at that moment, we have our own version of a speech, an inaugural address, and our new mayor did that. And she talked about a lot of things that were on her mind, and a lot of things that she wanted to accomplish in 2022. And some of them, I have to admit, I do not remember. But the reason I don't remember some of them is because she made a clear theme. Her remarks were crystal clear. She said, this year, my focus, my theme for 2022, and I think the city's theme, should be mental health. That is what our new mayor said. It touched a lot of people. We all were like, wow, okay. And with this program, here we are in March, I think we're hitting the ground running on what our mayor wanted to make the theme for Half Moon Bay. So please welcome the mayor of Half Moon Bay, Debbie Ruddock.
Good morning. It's a great day, a very happy day. I'm very happy to see all of you, and I'm very happy to see our new program and our new program staff. How exciting. So I want to thank you for joining us today for the official start of a crucial new program here in Half Moon Bay, the Crisis Assistance Response and Evaluation Services Pilot Program, also known as CARES. In partnership with El Centro de Libertad and the County of San Mateo, we are launching CARES in response to what can only be described as a mental health crisis in our coastside community and in other communities as well, and also our country, I think. There has long been a great need for a more thoughtful, appropriate, and safer response to emergency calls concerning individuals experiencing a mental health crisis. Here in Half Moon Bay, we've seen the tragic results that can result from a conventional response, when a nonviolent response more focused on addressing a person's mental wellness would have been more appropriate, even life-saving. The challenges of the pandemic have brought about an increase in the number of people struggling with their mental and emotional well-being, pointing to an even more profound need for this program. The CARES program is a community-wide effort of Half Moon Bay, the County of San Mateo, El Centro de Libertad, and other nonprofits and community members who have all played a role in making this possible. We're grateful also to the public safety communication staff at the county's 911 dispatch, the sheriff's office, Coastside Fire, and County Emergency Medical Services, and other county agencies for their support and collaboration in developing the program. I'd like to now introduce to you the many dignitaries who are here to share our wonderful celebration today, starting with San Mateo Supervisor Don Horsley. County Sheriff Carlos Bolanos, Assistant Sheriff Ed Wood, San Mateo County Sheriff's Captain Andrew Armando, my fellow Half Moon Bay City Council members, Vice Mayor Deborah Penrose, Councilmember Harvey Rarbach, Councilmember Joaquin Jimenez, and Councilmember Robert Brownstone. You will hear from others, important folks working for our state legislators coming after me, so I'll let them introduce themselves. The good news is we're already exploring other funding sources for the program's expansion beyond this year. We're excited to announce that the city has been awarded a grant from the California Department of Health Care Services. This grant more than doubles the program funding and will enable the city in El Centro to extend the hours and length of the pilot. Starting in late summer, CARES will operate 7 days per week for more than 14 hours per day. That's the real deal. This will allow more calls to be dispatched to the CARES team during school hours and busy weekends. The goal is to reach a point where 24/7 services can be offered. The CARES program marks the start of a new era in Half Moon Bay, an era in which people can reach out without fear during a mental health or emotional distress crisis, with the assurance that the response will be one of compassion, nonviolence, and assistance. I'm feeling really good about this program. I think she's going places. So, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for getting us started. Before I introduce our next speaker, I want to acknowledge one of our council members that the mayor just mentioned, our Vice Mayor, Deborah Penrose. This has been a team effort, as we can see today, but Vice Mayor Penrose did two important things, had two important contributions to this effort. The first was almost a year ago, we were having a council meeting and we were struggling a bit on this intersection of mental health and policing. And at that meeting, Councilmember Penrose, I don't know if you, back then, this organization, Cahoots, was in the news a lot. They were making national news. They're up in Eugene, Oregon, and they have a program up there, and they were becoming the gold star for this type of program. And they were on CNN, and Councilmember Penrose said at the meeting, well, let's just get Cahoots to come down and tell us how to do it. And I was like, as the city manager, I'm like, how am I going to do that? And then I remembered, hey, meetings are virtual, so you never know. And sure enough, we contacted Cahoots in Oregon, and the program director for their program, Ebony Morgan, spoke at one of our council meetings for an hour and blew everyone away. And I think that's when light bulbs went on for the council, for staff, for the community that we could do this here. She was just an amazing person who inspired us. And that was one thing I have to give credit to Councilmember Penrose. She said, get Cahoots here, we got Cahoots here. The second thing she did was she called Supervisor Horsley and said, Supervisor, we have $75,000, that's all we have. We need more than that. Can you give us some money? We need a match. And Supervisor Horsley said, done, I'll give you another $75,000. So with that, I'd like to introduce your county supervisor, Supervisor Don Horsley.
Well, thanks for that introduction. It is really it is a great day. And, I think as the mayor said, the last couple of years have been really difficult. And we have really seen an increase in the number of people who are suffering from mental health crises. And so this, and also I've worked a lot with El Centro. I used to play with Your former executive director was my neighbor, so I've known your organization for a long time, and I have a lot of faith in these people. It's a great organization. They do great work, and I'm sure that they'll do great work for this entire community. The other thing is that we agreed to do is that there's part of, covers the proper of Half Moon Bay, but there's also movement, and this program will cover the unincorporated portion as well. And I know we have our third officer from the Sheriff's Department, their information, and there will be, one of the Beverly, our former mental health director. Hi, how are you?
Hi, good to see you.
I've been retired for a few years. Retirement's pretty good, I think. By the end of this year, I will be joining you in retirement. Some of my constituents will be happy to see me do it. Some won't. But in any case, nice to see you, and it's nice to see all the people from Half Moon Bay. But really, the credit goes not only to the city council, but also to the citizens of this town. Because I know that this was a joint between the council and the residents of Half Moon Bay, and we came up with this solution. We're really excited to see it work. I think there's also going to be, there's some other things that we're doing with some of the other cities with clinicians, and I believe that we're going to do some comparison to see which model actually works best. And I think they both will be significant improvements in response to make sure that people who need health, mental health, will get it, and will be connected to follow it as well. So with that, I'm really pleased to be here today, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, Don. Next up, another major partner for the city of Half Moon Bay, not just in this endeavor, but a lot of endeavors, is our state legislators. We have really good ones. They're always here for us. We have great field reps as well. Today, from Senator Josh Becker's office, Joan Dentler is here. She's a great person, great supporter of Half Moon Bay, and as has been said earlier, for this program to go on, we're going to need more money. So she's also a great liaison for future funding.
Thank you, City Manager Nisbet, and thank you, Mayor Ruddock, and the City of Half Moon Bay for having us here today. I'd also like to bring up my colleague in Assemblymember Berman's office here, representing Assemblymember Berman and the California State Legislature. So on behalf of Senator Becker, thanks for having us here today for the launch of this important bilingual program that we know will be a model for the entire state of California. The Senator asked me today to convey his appreciation to the city, County of San Mateo, and El Centro de Libertad for your collaboration in ensuring that members of the coastside community experiencing a mental health crisis or a substance use crisis receive the appropriate assessment and intervention. As you may know, there are a number of bills being considered in the state legislature this session. And last year, our office received a call from Deputy City Manager Matthew Chittister asking us about some funds that might be available from AB 118, also known as, and here's another acronym, I won't ask you to repeat it, but it is the Crisis Act, which stands for Community Response Initiative to Strengthen Emergency Systems Act. And that was authored by now Senator Kamlager. And that money appropriated $10 million for programs such as the CARES program throughout the state of California. So Matthew and the city staff called and asked how they could get a bite out of that. And we are committed to working with the city of Half Moon Bay and the unincorporated sections of San Mateo County to find that grant money, because as the mayor said and as City Manager Nisbet said, we need more. We got matching funds from the county, but the state will be stepping up now to take care of this and help fund this important project. We look forward to assisting in continuing the funding of this. And as we learned today, by just looking around, we realize that when we do invest in organizations rooted within our community, we improve our resiliency, our relationships, and we strengthen connections in our cities, our counties, and throughout the entire state of California.
So thank you for inviting me here on behalf of Senator Becker and Leslie here on behalf of Assemblymember Berman. And congratulations on this wonderful program launch. And I will not read this certificate, but I will present it to Mayor Ruddock on behalf of the California State Senate. Leslie?
Good afternoon. It's great to be here in sunny and chilly Half Moon Bay. It's a little cold out here. Just a minute ago, a hawk was flying over, and whenever I see a hawk flying over, I think it's good luck. So it graced us with its presence this afternoon, and I'm really excited that this pilot program is now getting off the ground. It's going to lighten the load on overstressed public safety agencies. It's going to really get people the mental health care that they need. Unfortunately, Assemblymember Berman could not be here today. Both he and Senator Becker are up in Sacramento, but they asked us to be here to give congratulations and thanks for this collaboration between the city of Half Moon Bay, San Mateo County, and El Centro de Libertad. And thank you so much for welcoming us here today. Congratulations.
Thank you, Joan and Leslie. Next up, so I met this gentleman on a Zoom call. That's how I seem to meet a lot of people these days, unfortunately. But Matthew had set up a Zoom call, our deputy city manager, with Jeff and his team, and it was almost like a kind of like an interview almost, or it was maybe just a meet and greet for the first time. And after 10 minutes on this Zoom call, I was texting Matthew. I'm like, where did you find this guy? Where did you find these people? This is it. We're done. This is our partner for this program, I'm convinced. So I could say a few words about what struck me about Jeff on a 10-minute Zoom call, but I'm going to let you see for yourself. Where did he go? Why this guy, the executive director of El Centro de Libertad, and his team are so incredible. Jeff.
Everybody hear me okay? Yep. All right. Good afternoon. I got myself some notes because I tend to ramble and get lost and say silly things. Just because I have these notes, I'm not promising that I won't get lost and ramble and say silly things. First, I want to give a big thank you to Bob and Matthew Chittister with the City of Half Moon Bay. These guys have the courage to do what nobody else in the state of California is willing to do, and that is, for the very first time, we're going to have civilians responding to 911 calls instead of traditional first responders. What is that going to prove? We don't know yet. This is a pilot program. We're going to be collecting a lot of data, but I am sure that the benefits are going to be significant. Matthew, from your team, Corey and Karen and Victor, you guys have just been amazing to work with and collaborate with. From San Mateo County, Dawn, a big thank you to you, sir. You're making it possible for this to happen. And from the other county agencies that we've been working with, Public Safety Communications, we knew when we first started forming the CARES program that we needed to partner with the people answering the phone at the 911 center and get them on board, because they're the first part of the CARES program, the screening of those calls coming in to make sure that they're sending us to the right types of calls. So we got to pair up with Natasha and Judy. Judy was on duty, and I didn't mean for that to rhyme, I'm sorry. Judy was on duty 7 years ago when the Serrano family suffered an unspeakable tragedy when officers responded to a mental health call. So to have somebody who's so emotionally and passionately invested in the success of CARES and such a key part, the 911 call, was critical. And what an amazing partner that PSC, Tasha, your agency, Judy, thank you. Sheriff Milano, thank you. Thank you, sir. Your team has been incredible. I really thought that we might meet some resistance with the sheriff's office, but then we met Captain Andy Armando back here hiding. And he was so instrumental in making sure that the sheriff's department was going to be collaborative with us, and we're going to help us to form what the CARES program would look like as we were responding to these calls and working with other first responding agencies. You know, they provided some critical training for us on what it might look like when we show up and the police aren't there, and the fire department isn't there, and how we would process those calls. So thank you, Captain Armando, for just being an incredible partner in this process. We appreciate it, and thank you to the sheriff for just being open to this process. We really do appreciate it. Other county agencies, Coastside Fire District and San Mateo County Behavioral Health and Recovery Services have been instrumental in making sure that we had all the tools and the planning that we needed to really make this work. So a big shout out to those two agencies as well. I want to introduce the board of directors for El Centro de Libertad, who, when I first approached them with the idea of doing this crazy idea of having civilians answering 911 calls, they kind of looked at me like I had lost my mind and they had made a mistake when they hired me. But after we got into the weeds a bit and we talked about it and what it would look like, their support has made it possible for El Centro to be 100% invested in this process. So I would like to introduce Paul Mangan. If you could raise your hand, Paul. He's the board president. Patrice Osborne, she is our board secretary. We got Ralph Garcia, who is the board vice president. And we've got Dan Oliveira, who is a member at large. You guys are instrumental in keeping us on the right path. I want to introduce the El Centro team. This is the management team that has helped me keep my sanity as we were planning this process. Colin Labor, where are you, buddy?
Colin.
Waving the yellow hat. He's our director of finance. He's one of those guys that likes to get into the weed and figure out how things work. You know, it's not flip the light switch and the light goes on. He wants to know what happens when he flips that light switch that makes the light go on. So he is our numbers guy. We couldn't have done this without you, Colin. I want to introduce Luis Valdivias, our director of programs. Luis has been instrumental in making sure that we had the right players in the right place and scheduling to ensure that that CARES van would always have the right team doing the job here in Half Moon Bay. Want to introduce Chevelle Vernon. Where you at, Chevelle? Our licensed LCSW and clinical director for El Centro de Libertad. She's going to have direct oversight over the team in the CARES van. She will essentially be the third person in the van for the first couple of months as we write this brand new playbook and coach our teams and experience new things. She'll be there to help us through it all. Lynn Sanchez. Where you at, Lynn? Lynn Sanchez right over there. Lynn is our director of administration, and she is handling everything else while everybody else is getting CARES up and off the ground and rolling. And for that, you have my eternal gratitude. I can really rely on Lynn to get the job done. And while she's not a director, Michelle Brignoli, where you at? Oh, over there. Michelle is our executive assistant, and she helps me look good. That's all I need to say. I also want to give a shout out to the rest of the El Centro staff. While we've been working on CARES and developing it and staffing it and training for it and equipping it and being ready to roll out today, the rest of the staff have been picking up the slack on everything else that we do. We do drug and alcohol treatment, we do anger management, we do domestic violence training, we do parenting classes, we do prevention education in the schools. And that job still is there. It still needs to get done, and it needs to get done at the high quality that we promised the community we're going to deliver. So to the rest of the staff, my hats are off to you. I could not have done this without you. Thank you. want to talk about the people that are going to be driving around in that shiny white van. Josh DeRosa is going to be our primary clinician. He's the project lead. Kara Roenberg is going to be our primary EMT. Rebecca Torres is going to be one of our backup clinicians. She's going to play a bigger role later in the summer too on Team 2. Edgar Cruz, another backup clinician. Ann Lococo, a backup EMT. Sarah Lococo, who right now is a backup EMT, but I'm doing a sales job, folks. I need her full-time in the summer. Kyle Draper, back there in the Giants hat. He's one of our backup EMTs. Monica Halloran is our program supervisor and also a backup clinician. So these folks for months have been training and experiencing and planning to make sure that we deliver the best product that we possibly can to the city of Half Moon Bay. We got a deep bench. The van's only going to have 2 people in it, but this is the depth of the bench backing up that van. There'll never be a shift that we're supposed to be out that we're not, even if that means that Luis has to be in the van. Oops. I want to talk a little bit about El Centro de Libertad. We were founded in 1994 by a gentleman named George Board, who was about 8 years into recovery, and he realized that the Latinx population was not getting access to mental health care and drug and alcohol treatment care because they couldn't afford it, because there were language barriers. So he founded El Centro de Libertad with the intention of making sure that people of color had access to the same care that everybody else did in the language that they spoke. He made one important caveat about El Centro's mission. They were going to get treatment even if they couldn't afford it. We were going to make sure that they got the help that they needed. In 1999, we came out here to Half Moon Bay because nobody else was doing it and the services were needed. And we have been here ever since. And then last summer, I was in some of the mental health focus groups talking about how we were going to make things different here in Half Moon Bay. And that's when Matthew and I started chatting, and at some point, you know, we got into the crazy out-of-the-box thinking. What would happen if we were doing transports instead of an ambulance with 4-point restraints? What would happen if we went to mental health calls instead of the police, where there's a lot of resistance from the Latinx community and communities underprivileged that they don't quite trust the police all the time? What would that look like? So then the city of Half Moon Bay put out a call to the CBOs looking for a partner to do this crazy idea, and we got together, and we're making this happen. Beginning today, the CARES team is going to respond to 911 calls experiencing, or for individuals experiencing a mental health crisis. We're talking about calls where there isn't violence happening, calls where there isn't a medical emergency, because in those calls you really need the traditional primary responders, first responders to go. But that's a small percentage of calls involving mental health. All the other stuff, it's going to be us going, civilians showing up. We're not there as somebody that's a threat to the folks we're going to be talking to. We can't arrest anybody. We can't force ourselves upon anybody. We're going to be there as a resource for help, because when people call 911 who are experiencing a mental health crisis situation, they're calling for help. They're not calling to end up in the county jail. They're not calling to end up in a hospital necessarily. They're asking for help. So we're going to be the help that's being sent out to them. Our mobile crisis unit is going to have a certified EMT on board, and it's going to have an experienced mental health professional on board. And like I said, for the first couple of months, we're going to have a licensed LCSW on board, writing the playbook as we do the job. Our team is going to be unarmed, dressed as you see here, bilingual. There's always going to be at least one, if not two, Spanish speakers on board that van. In fact, Josh also speaks Portuguese. So we got it all covered for the most part. They're trained in de-escalation, crisis intervention, motivational interviewing, suicide prevention, all of which are best practices in working with individuals that are in crisis. This will help divert costly visits to the emergency room and unnecessary entry into the criminal justice system, and provide an in-person connection to services that ultimately contribute to the healing of the individuals and the families. And those services, it's not just El Centro out there doing the job. We're partnering with Life Moves. Who do I got here from Life Moves? I saw Cassandra earlier. Where you at? Cassandra, all the way in the back. The Life Moves hot team. We're going to be working closely with those folks because some of the folks that we're going to be talking to are homeless. So who better to connect them to than the experts in providing services to the homeless, Life Moves and the hot team. We're going to be working with Abundant Grace. Eric, are you here? We got Abundant Grace right over there. And a wonderful resource for the homeless population here in Half Moon Bay. A wonderful long-term partner with El Centro de Libertad. And we look forward to our continued partnership. A loss. I know we got a loss in the house. When folks are experiencing a mental health crisis in the home, it's not just the person, it's the entire family. They're all being traumatized and they're all experiencing this crisis. So while we'll connect an individual with the resources to get them the long-term stability and care that they need, what about the family? Our approach is going to be very holistic, and that's where a loss is going to come into play with their resources in education, food insecurities, and family support, and a variety of other options that you guys do because you guys do it really well. So we're proud to partner with the loss on this. Coast Pride will be partnering with them. Teenagers in the LGBTQ community experiencing trauma that some of us may never experience, and they have mental health issues because of that trauma that some of us may never have. We want to make sure that we connect them with the appropriate, compassionate, caring resource. So we connected with Coast Pride, the Coastside Clinic, and of course San Mateo County Behavioral Health and Rehabilitation Services, Recovery Services, as well as Adult Protective Services. All of these agencies and many, many more we're going to be partnering with. If you're in a CBO and you're here today and I have not mentioned your name, don't think it's because I don't care. Just know I didn't sleep well last night. So, this kind of approach provides an alternative response, one that will prevent physical harm and loss of life that sometimes results from an armed response to a situation. This is a well thought out program which has had success elsewhere. We talked about the CAHOOTS program. Austin, Texas has a similar program. Albuquerque, New Mexico has a similar program. But nowhere else in the state of California do you have a program quite like this. You have co-responder models, you have police officers trained in crisis intervention, de-escalation, but nowhere else in the state of California are we taking law enforcement and traditional first responders out of the equation if they don't need to be there. And we're sending civilians. So this is really groundbreaking. This is going to spread. This is going to catch on. I hope you're as excited as I am. Dealing with suicidal ideations, persons under the influence, persons experiencing mental health crisis, parents calling with concern for adolescents exhibiting unusual behavior, like maybe there's drug use going on and they're not quite sure how to handle it. They'll be able to call for the CARES team to come over. Our community members responding, some of our community members are going to be in an emotional crisis. Sometimes they're just having a bad day, and that may scare people. We'll be able to come over there and help them and connect them to the services that they need. We'll go to homes, we'll go to businesses, we're going to go to the schools, we're going to go to the parks, we're going to go to the beaches. Eric, I see you just showed up. See me after class, you're late. We're going to be going wherever we need to be within the city of Half Moon Bay and the Moon Ridge community. Ultimately, we hope to spread the CARES program coastwide. I got some recent news. Mayor, thank you so much for your support on this. And I think you mentioned it, the additional funding coming from VHCS. Let me tell you what that funding does. It doubles our budget that we had originally planned, which was a 7-month pilot. So it now takes us out to a full year. But more importantly, in September, we're going to be adding a second team to the CARES program here in Half Moon Bay. And we're going to be providing coverage from 7:30 in the morning until 11:30 at night for folks that are in a mental health crisis. We'll be much more accessible to the school district and kids who are having issues at school, and maybe we could help in some way or another. This is a huge deal to be able to provide this resource 7 days a week.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. 7 years ago, the Serrano family experienced a tragedy that I couldn't possibly imagine. Tony Serrano wasn't just going to mourn. He advocated. He built partnerships. He collaborated. He motivated the community to recognize that something else needed to be done. We would not be here today, Tony, if it wasn't for you and your advocacy. The Bureau would be proud. From all of us at El Centro de Libertad, I want to thank the entire Half Moon Bay community for being willing to go down this crazy road with us. Thank you.
So did you guys see what I learned in my first 10 minutes? We got the right partner here. I too wanted to acknowledge just 2 more people that you've heard their names already before we do turn it over to our final speaker. I also want to acknowledge Sheriff Bolanos, who is here. They have been a partner since day one on this. They really have. So what are they doing to be a partner? And you've heard some of it already. They just went through a full day training last week to get prepped up for this. They were leading that training. They're providing the radios. They're providing the backup, as you've heard. We can't do it without them. Not only will calls go through 911, but it's also possible that the sheriff officers get called out and they can make the decision to pivot and turn it over to the CARES team. So it's an incredible partnership, and I just want to acknowledge Sheriff Bolanos for agreeing to be a part of this. The second person I want to acknowledge before our last speaker, you've heard his name too, it's Matthew Chittister.
Yes.
He's our assistant city manager. And what does an assistant city manager do? Well, they pretty much do everything. I'm not kidding. It makes you wonder, like, why we need a city manager. So he's the project manager, the evangelist. It's this person behind the scenes. What do they do? How do we get from point A to point B? Here we are today at point B. I'm going to read some words. This is what describes that role that Matthew fulfilled. He listened. He convened. He arranged. He visualized. He nudged. He pushed. He pulled. He educated. He dreamed. He persuaded. He coordinated. He didn't sleep. He persevered and he succeeded. So that's what a project manager behind the scenes does. It doesn't just happen, and that's what Matthew Chittister did to get this program. That was his role to get this program to where it is today. So I just want to acknowledge And then our final most important speaker, and Jeff just acknowledged him, the true inspiration for this program today, 7 years ago or more, as Jeff mentioned. Tony Serrano is here, and it has been an inspiration. He has committed himself to this effort through prodding the city. And I don't know if he knew in all of his efforts that part of his efforts were going to lead to an alternative response program, but his efforts were committed to a better way to do mental health and public safety. And through that pushing and that advocacy, that has led us here today. So Tony Serrano, it is now yours.
I'm gonna try not to cry. Thank you all for being here today, celebrating this victory. A victory for the family, but for the entire community. For the last 7 years, we have fought for the opportunity to have an alternative to police intervention during a mental health call. And today, I can say that we did it. We don't know if this program could have saved my sister's life 7 years ago. But all I know is that it will save many lives and restore the confidence to make a call for help. I know that Yanira is smiling from heaven. This is a great example of what we can accomplish if we work together with great leaders that prioritize the well-being of the community and the focus on the most vulnerable. We know that nothing can bring Yanira back, but we know that her spirit will be here and live through the many lives and persons that this program touches. I want to acknowledge the reason why we are here today, Yanira. The suffering, the pain, the struggle of the community is the foundation of this program. I'm so grateful for you all today, especially the members who have been with us for 7 years, the Latino Advisory Board, Alice, Belinda, Joaquin, members who join us at the end, the CFTA, Stacy, RJ, Phil. I want to also thank in particular Matthew and Victor, who have been with us since day one, and also to the members of the council who have been with us also through the struggle. I'm really happy to be here today sharing these words, and I know that El Centro and the CURSE program will do a great job. Thank you.
So with that, we're going to launch this program. We have the vehicle, we have the ribbon, so I'm going to ask people to start making their way. The crowd can kind of adjust a little bit to get a good shot, and we will have our folks. Tony, please lead the way. Where did you go off to? Come up to the ribbon, so please join us.
Pórtele.
These are in memory of Yanira. These are in memory of Yanira.